Come on. So what does she have to say for us this time? Now, listen to the strategy here. We know what this is all about.
Yep.
This is all about, well, these voting restrictions are there. They're just, they affect our elections. Nobody can get it. So here she is letting us know the difficulty of Americans getting a photo copy for their ID. Here we go.
Is agreeing to voter ID one of those compromises that you'd support?
I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are. Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't. There's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Mm-hmm. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
Almost impossible.
Well, give us an alternative then. All right, so your alternative is what?
So can people that live
The great communicator.
Yeah, can people that live in the rural areas, are they able to check into a hotel? Are they able to open bank accounts?
Do they drive?
Do they drive?
Yeah, I mean, how do they do any of this
She's saying
mysteriously?
there's no way for you to go to Kinko's or something to fax copies.
All right, let me tell you this.
She did that thing where she repeats, like
Yeah,
we were talking about last week.
I think that's her dinosaur. Remember, Cassio said when I'm losing, and I go to a dinosaur.
Yeah, right.
I think when she starts repeating it, that's when she's losing.
Well, what we have here too is, she conveniently has forgotten about. Look, I'm gonna tell you something. I've been to some of the poorest places on the planet, and I certainly have been to some of the poorest places in our country. People seem to do a really good job of commandeering a cell phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
I don't have a problem with that.
And I know when I have to.
It's hard to go on this earth where they don't have a cell phone.
Right, and there's also technology there. I think that actually hurts the Kinkos and all that, because mostly what I do now is take a picture of it, and I send it to where I'm supposed to send it.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, with the iPhone
I don't have to make a copy anymore.
No. With the iPhone now, it has a document scan feature.
There you go.
In Notes. I mean, you can scan it.
And you're right. I haven't seen anybody but not toting the phone.
Well,
the only reason you don't want people to ID when they vote is because you're trying to cheat. That's the only reason. Mm-hmm. The only reason.
Right,
there is no other excuse for not identifying who is voting and have one vote for one person.
Photo IDs have been something, as Bubba's mentioned 1,000 times, that have been required for multiple things. And you've never heard anybody come on and say, this is practically impossible.
Yeah.
And
I guess they ever take an airplane.
Right.
I mean, so you can't survive.
For a lot of Americans, and I love this line, and she wishes she could have it back. It's practically impossible for people to prove who they are.
Yeah.
But hey, look, the last 20 seconds of that is priceless.
Can I have the last? Can we have it again?
But these same people are required to have a vaccine passport.
Right.
What?
I think everybody should not be as offended by what she's trying to say, because we know why she's saying it. Where the major offense should come from is that she thinks we're buying it. She thinks we're gold enough to go, and I'll tell you, she makes a good point.
You got to be thinking about who you're asking this for.
I am thinking about it because I know what you're doing, but go ahead.
A lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't. There's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Mm-hmm. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
What?